Welcome to the Golden Text Group, y'all. My name is Anthony Wade, and I will be chairing this month. One thing I can say about this meeting, this is my home group. It's been a big part of my sobriety. It's taught me a lot. Great speakers have graced, these stands. So tonight I do have somebody prepared that actually helped me through my journey. Every street I've turned on, he happened to be there. So right now we're gonna start with Dylan. Come and read about more.
Before we go on, you gotta have to really make sure you speak into the mic and speak out, okay?
Speak in and speak out.
Yeah, you have to, because
Gotcha.
otherwise the people online can't, and there's mostly people
All right,
online.
no problem.
And a moment of silence followed by the
Serenity
serenity
And let's
prayer.
do the moment of silence and serenity prayer.
All right, first we're gonna start off with a moment of silence for the sick and suffering, ones that haven't made it, still out there. God,
Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
All right, Dylan, come and tell us more about alcoholism.
Hi, my name is Dylan. I'm an addict
Like
and a
that.
drunk.
Good job, Dylan.
All right,
David B.
Chapter 3. Most of us have been unwilling to admit. Most of us have been unwilling to admit we were real alcoholics. No person likes to think he is bodily and mentally different from his fellows. Therefore, it is not surprising that our drinking careers have been characterized by countless vain attempts to prove we could drink like other people. The idea that somehow, someday, he will control and enjoy his drinking is the great obsession of every abnormal drinker. The persistence of this illusion is astonishing. Many pursued into the gates of insanity or death. We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we are like other people, or presently may be, has to be smashed. We alcoholics are men and women who have lost the ability to control our drinking. We know that no real alcoholic ever recovers control. All of us felt at times that we were regaining control, but such intervals, usually brief, were inevitably followed by still less control, which led to the time in pitiful and comprehensible demoralization. We are convinced to a man that alcoholics of our type are in this grip of progressive severe illness. Over any considerable period, we get worse, never better, with or without drinking. We are like men who have lost their legs. They never grow new ones. Neither does there appear to be any kind of treatment which will make alcoholics of our kind like other men. We have tried every imaginable remedy. In some instances, there has been brief recovery, followed always by a still worse relapse. Physicians who are familiar with alcoholism agree there is no such thing as making a normal drinker out of an alcoholic. Science may one day accomplish this,
But it hasn't done so yet.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Thank you, Dylan. Now, we're gonna tell you how it works with Miriam.
Good evening, I'm Miriam, an alcoholic.
Miriam!
How it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault, they seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders. But many of them do recover, if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. At some of these we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7. Humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9. Made direct amends to such people whenever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10. Continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening, as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What an order! I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is
What's the point?
that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. And C, that
God could and would if he were sought.
Thank you, Miriam.
Thank you, Anthony.
All right, I want to ask if anyone is here for the first time or coming back. What's your name? Paul. Who? Paul. Paul, nice to meet you, Paul. Welcome home, baby. Welcome home. Now, I want to introduce a very good friend. His name is Matt. One thing I can say about him, and since I've got here, I've got to meet a lot of, very, very great people, from Stevie to Jerry and Matt. He doesn't work for JC's, but you would think he does. It's because he's here at every meeting. He has 31 years, and he doesn't act like it. It's because he's taught me in a lot. I go to outside meetings, he's there. In different situations, he have taught me. I actually call him all the time, and he always pick up the phone, always call me back. One thing I can say about this program is all about who you're around. You're not gonna make it if you're around the wrong people, but if you're around the right people, you can make it. It's because you can learn from what they're doing, their routine. 31 years, 18 years that Stevie has. I want to know how they did it, because my way coming in, I was lost. I thought it was over. But seeing that they were able to do it gave me hope. Come, Maddie, let them know how you got that hope.
All right.
You good, Andrew? Good evening, everybody. My name is Matty F., and I am an alcoholic.
Maddie.
Anthony, thank you. Thank you. Very nice introduction. Thank you. Stevie, always thank you for always inviting me and keeping me part of this, the JC's community. And again, my anniversary date is March 31st, 1989. I am thank you. I am a member member of the East Naples Men's Group, which meets in Pembroke Pines.
Maddie, hold on one second.
Okay.
So sorry.
Move the
But-
mic to.
But we don't get, they don't hear at all. So, Facebook said there's nobody can hear. Okay.
He's gonna move the mic up to his mouth more and it'll be fine.
Because we definitely gotta hear this.
No, if you raise it, you're gonna get feedback, Anthony, don't raise it.
Give me 1 second.
It's gotta go up closer to his mouth, that's all.
Give me 1 second, Matt. All right, testing online, testing online. I know Zoom is good because I'm getting thumbs up on Zoom. How is Facebook online? Let Andrew know. How's this sound? I'm hearing on Facebook that there's no volume whatsoever. It's not matter. They're not hearing anything. What are they saying? Give me Facebook. Let me know.
All the way up in volume.
Loud and clear, Stevie.
On Facebook, loud and clear?
Yes.
Okay, great, perfect. So you just get,
All saying it's okay, it's fine.
Thank you, Stevie.
Thank you, Stevie.
Thank you, guys.
All right, good. So as I said, I'm a member of the East Naples Men's Group that meets in Pembroke Pines every Monday night. I was a longtime member of the Belford Clearview Group, which meets in Middletown, New Jersey. Big shout out to all my brothers in arms in New Jersey. Today I asked Paul Baker, Paul B, to be my sponsor.
Oh, yeah.
It's the reason why my sponsor, Jim B, passed back in October. And I haven't had a sponsor. I had asked Stevie. Stevie was my temporary sponsor. And I heard Paul speak the other day. Paul celebrated 35 years, and he said, that's correct? He said when his friend Jim Reedy passed, he had a sponsor the next day. And it made me think, who am I not to be afraid to reach out to people? See, the point is, even though you have some time, fear can come in. Us being afraid to ask for help can certainly come in. But we have to overcome that. And it's easy to overcome if you follow this program, which we do here. So like I said, as the years go on, I always, I bring this book with me. This book was given to me by my first sponsor, Ronnie S., from Hoboken, New Jersey. And it was in April of 1989, after I had gotten out of rehab. And the men that came into rehab, I was sharing the other night, you know how you remember certain parts about your early recovery. And here I am, I'm 35 years old, I'm sitting in this place called Century House in Red Bank, New Jersey, and my life was falling through the cracks. Everything good in my life, like Ray O'Kay talks about, everything good in my life had gone away. My scorecards all read 0, as the book told us. And in this place, Century House, you would go out every night, and then on alternate nights, outside groups would come in. So this fellow told this story, and he told my story. And he looked at in the room, and there was 32 of us in the community at the time, and he said, I'm not sure about AA statistics. He said, but out of you 32, 2 of you will stay sober. And that's pretty intense, right? 2 out of 32. And then he followed it up with this and said, 1 of you 2 will see 10 years. Now 10 years at the time when you're sitting in rehab seems like an unbelievable amount of time. And I want to tell you that I thought I was going to be the star of this Lifetime movie, and I said, man, that's going to be me, that's going to be me. And you know what? By God's grace, it was me. You know, so, you know, we'll start at the beginning. How did this kid from Waldwick, New Jersey, end up in beautiful Hollywood Beach, Florida? You know? When we do this, when we come up to speak, it's a pretty basic format, right? You know, we ask to share our experience, strength, and hope. And we talk about what it was like, what happened, and what it's like today. My first drink was July 21st, 1969. Was the night the men landed on the moon. And by the grace of God, I hope my last drink was March 31st, 1989. So I drank for 2 decades, the 70s and the 80s. You know, so a little bit of what it was like. As I said, I grew up in this town called Walworth, New Jersey. And, you know, my dad was a World War II vet, was a medic in the South Pacific, came back, was in Hudson County, New Jersey for a while, met my mom. They got married. My dad was 28, my mom was 20. You know, being the Irish Catholic parents that they were and practicing the rhythm method, you know, there was a child every year for year after year after year. So like a lot of families, we had a big family, right? And I'm the oldest of 6, and you know, I remember certain childhood things, and I love my dad. He was a hard man. In our house, alcohol, when I talk a little bit more about my dad, let me say how I remember certain childhood things. And this is one of the things when I tell my story of certain things I remember. As we were kids growing up, and my dad would drink, alcohol was part of our family. And like I said, when we moved out there, shortly thereafter, all my mom's brothers and sisters would start to follow, and all around the family. So in our town, the family grew, and everybody was related, everybody knew everything. When I heard Billy's story the other night about him growing up in Long Island, it was just like that. You know, picket fence, baby boomer America. But a lot of things went behind in those curtains in those houses. And if your house, if drink was involved, you never talked about it. You know, so certain things about it. Remember, my dad was, like I said, he was a medic in the South Pacific. And there were nights when he drank and he would have these flashbacks as we were kids. And he would remember about the ugliness of war, about men dying and trying to put bodies and stuff back together. Now as kids, I'm trying to visualize that. I couldn't think about that but it affected him when he drank, right? And it wasn't until much later on, you know, when Steven Spielberg did Saving Private Ryan, you know, albeit that was Europe compared to the South Pacific. But when you saw those visual images of what war was like, it made me realize, God, that must have been hell for a 20-year-old kid away from home watching this stuff, you know? And I could see some of the reasons for why his life was, you know, was like that, you know? So as we're kids, you know, we're growing up, and again, it's, you know, my mom was great. I love my mom, raising her family, one of the smartest women that I know. And, you know, our house would always be like the center point. And the only thing I remember is the men were in the kitchen, and the women were in the kitchen, and the men were either outside or in one of the other rooms. And there was always a case of beer on ice and a bottle or two in the middle. And everything revolved around that. Alcohol was the hub. And I equated that with being a grown-up. I saw the ease and comfort that they had when they drank. And any kind of problems just disappeared. Nobody worried about things when that was happening. And I could see that, and I longed at a young age to grow up. Well, that happened for me, like I said, July 14th, 1969. Me and my 3 best friends were at a house party. We were getting ready to go to a dance at St. Luke's High School down in Hoboken, New Jersey. And we had obtained, at 14 years old, the 4 of us, a case of Colt 45. And we sat down on my friend John's parents' basement, and we started chugging Colt 45. And then someone had the bright idea, let's do some shots. You know, so everybody looked at the bar behind us, and, you know, this is the Woodstock era. And I remember seeing Janis Joplin swigging Southern Comfort when she was on stage doing a concert. So I just grabbed this bottle of Southern Comfort, and I started chugging. Now, 3 things would happen that night that would follow me for the rest of my life. 1, I got totally drunk and blacked out and did not recall anything that happened until I woke up the next day. It was my friends that piecemealed this whole thing together. here was one of the things that, again, I would chase, and sometimes I still chase for the rest of my life. I found out that when we went to the stance, the four of us, drunk on Southern Comfort and Colt 45, that we went downstairs to the big gym in St. Luke's, and it was a typical high school dance, right? The stage, the band on the stage, all the boys on one side, all the girls on the other side, and nobody dancing. So I don't know if this is true, but this is what my friends told me the next day. That yours truly walked across the dance floor of the gym, took the hand of the cutest girl that was there, brought her out into the middle of the dance floor, and off we went. Everybody else joined in. What happened to me that next day when I woke up and they started to piece the story together, in that I became an instant legend. People talked about me, so I would later realize that, for a lot of us in the program, if you suffer from low self-esteem and people talk about you, like if you're like Norm in Cheers, and they know your name and they talk about you, to me it was the greatest feeling in the world. And I would chase that and chase that and chase that. And the third thing that happened on this drunk at 14, blacked out, instant legend in my own mind. I had fallen, I had cut up my whole face, I was all butterfly Band-Aid together, and I woke up and I had no idea how this happened. And you would think, whether you want to look at this at 14, but when they talked about me, that was the most important thing. And I couldn't wait to get back out to start to do it again.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. So, some of the things in high school, and there's some certain things. You always worked at my house. Everybody worked. I had paper routes. I worked in ice cream parlors. I worked at Chicken Delight. I did all these different things. You would kick somebody in and you would save. My cousin Brian and I, at 17 years old, I had saved enough to buy a vehicle. I wanted a car. And he took me over to meet this guy, and we made a deal with this guy. And I'm 17 years old, little over, and I purchased a 1968 Plymouth Roadrunner, 444 barrel that had 160 miles per hour on the speedometer at 17. Now, you mix alcohol in the mix with that, it was not a pleasant thing. So, my friend Gene and I, when we grew up in New Jersey, it was on the New York State borderline. And we would go to this place called Steak and Brew. And one night, Gene and I and a couple other guys had set the record for how many pitchers of this piss-warm beer that you could drink, right? Then we found out somebody beat our record, so we had to go back up the next weekend. And only Gene and I went up, and we broke the record. I don't remember driving home that night. I ran this 68 Plymouth Roadrunner off the road. I went through the windshield. Gene was ejected from the car.
Oh, God.
And you would think that would make you stop. But certainly it didn't, because people were talking about me. You should see what he did this time. And that would chase me, So it's, we were able to drink like that because to show you how the desire to fit in, to do that stuff at such a young age, was prior to that, when we would take gym as freshmen and sophomores with the seniors, we would see which person matched our physical description that were 18. Because you could drink at 18 on the state line. So we all had fake ID. And if you had good fake ID, man, you were a hero. And I talk about fake ID because that would come back to haunt me in my lifetime, many, many years later. So here we are in high school, I was a pretty good student when I applied myself, things were going good. It's time to go to college. Friends were going up to a college called St. Michael's College in Winooski, Vermont. We were all about to go, and this is what sealed the deal for me. For those of us back in the 70s and 80s that used to read Playboy magazine for the articles, they used to, they would describe colleges to go to. And this college that we went to, St. Michael's, was one of the top party schools in the Northeast. That sealed the deal for me. You know, it wasn't about, I wonder what my major's gonna be, I wonder what it's gonna be like that. That's what sealed the deal for me. And I would go, and I would party, and I would fail out. You know, so upon my arrival back home, like I said, you always worked in our house, and by this time, my dad was like a stagehand at Madison Square Garden, and my mom was like working in the box office. We had neighbors that worked at Madison Square Garden, which from where we lived, the city was only a half hour away. And they were able to befriend my parents, and they were now working, and things in our house were really looking up. So my dad said it's time to work, and I tried, you know, to be an apprentice in these unions. So I looked at it, I said, all right, stagehand work, or you're working your ass off, picking stuff up, ripped and carrying all this stuff in dirty clothes, or box office guys, three-piece suits, ties, polished shoes, jackets. I think I want that box office kind of work, forget the stagehand kind of work. And that's what I was doing. And I had had a little bit of experience like that when I was a kid, when my mom was out there. She got me a job in the summer delivering press releases as a kid, 15, for the New York Knicks and for the New York Rangers, delivering them all around Manhattan to all the newspapers. And I was enthralled with New York City. It was magical. It was a magical place, right? So here I am. I start off my career. I'm apprenticing in this, and you know, we're making good money. And I would start to see the New York City lifestyle. You know, New York City in the 70s were two complete different things. I would hang out with guys that were always much older than me, at least 5 or 10 years. I gravitated to them, their lifestyle in the bars and everything they had. People had money in their pockets. And the lifestyle we had in the 70s, I'd be watching guys. It wasn't like back home where you would like look to get a joint or two. These guys were buying pounds. You would look at these, they were buying hash. I know we have a little bit of a different kind of mentality in this room, but that was part of this whole story. That everything started at the bar. You know, and when you're a young kid like that and you're doing that, you're watching this, it was amazing. You know, I would see guys that were Broadway stars. They would be drinking in bars with guys who were TV stars and movie stars, right? And I'm looking at you know, at guys that, man, I wish I could be just like these guys like that, right? So I would look and I would see, and that's, you know, pretty much what I wanted. So you would spend your nights in Studio 54, in Elaine's. I'm in my mid-20s and going to these places. Like I said, it was magical. It was a magical time in New York. See, the only thing that happens when you live this kind of lifestyle, work sometimes gets in the way. And what people had envisioned me when I first started as really good at his job and up-and-coming rising star, well, that opinion started to change because of my alcoholic behavior. It was more important to go out and party than it was to show up for work. You know, and that would start, and those things would start, and it'd be like that. And you know, this started to really take a toll on me, and I had to really look at what I wanted to do. So here it is. It's the early 80s, and I'm now working Broadway shows, and things are going good. And I meet a girl at the theater, and we fall in love, and we start dating and go together. And I came to the relationship with the son and with the daughter, and she came to the relationship with the son. And we set up shop. We got married. We started having our family, and things were, you know, were going along. Prior to this, let me just stop when we talk about some of the events in our life. I've had 3 tragic events in my life. And the first one being that in September of 1982, while I'm working in Manhattan, I'm single, I'm living in a place with 2 other, it was 3 of us had this apartment, 2 barmaids and myself. I'm living this magic life, right? I'd been at it after hours all night, and I'm woken up by my uncle, who was a former New York City police officer, and he's telling me, you have to call home. And when I called home, I'd come to realize that September of 1982, my younger brother, Mark, had been killed in a car accident. You know, so I did what every true alcoholic left. I asked him to leave. I went across to the Port Authority, went up to Max's Briefcase Pub. I had about 5 Heinekens, I had about 6 shots, and I got on the bus and I came home. And it was the tragedy that would befall a family that you might imagine, you know, 21 years old. And again, certain things in your life that you remember about certain things, and I remember on the repast and in the, you know, in our house, and all the aunts and uncles were there, and certain things, like I said, that you remember. And I walked into one of the rooms, and my aunts and such were talking, and I can't remember the exact thing, but the phrase was, if there anything like this was ever going to happen, it was going to be Maddie, not Mark. Because Maddie lived that alcoholic lifestyle, and my brother Mark didn't. You know, but that's what happens. That's what happens, and that left a mark on my soul. You know, so I took my mom, and I promised her that I would not drink for a year. I just didn't put a time in it. I said, Mom, I'm going to stop drinking, and I didn't drink. And then in this time of a year, you know what happened, guys? Promotion after promotion. I was sought after to work at certain shows. People wanted me to do that. I'm moving up like that. Started to make some good money again, and it was great. Like I said, we met this girl. We started houses, things happened. And my friends, when we were there, would tell her, this man that you see before you is not the man that we knew growing up. And she couldn't understand that that would be part of my life. But that would soon change. And as we have our young kids, for whatever reason, one Super Bowl Sunday, I was helping my son deliver papers, and I walked past the grocery store and came home with a 12-pack of Tall Boys for no reason. And she's like, what's that? I said, you know, I haven't had a drink in a long time. I said, I'm going to watch the game. Well, as we know, this disease that centers in our mind is progressive by nature. And then shortly thereafter, she saw what everyone had warned. In a matter of no time at all, I'm back out after hours. I'm back out at the clubs. I'm back doing everything. Now we're into the 80s, and everybody knows what happened in the 80s. Money is going out the window. Everything is done. She is getting sick and tired of me. My employers, my friends were trying to find me jobs, and that wasn't, you know, that was a stretch. That I had to do all these different kind of jobs in Manhattan. I'm a bouncer at this bar. Hiring girls to work at these other bars. It was always alcohol related, right? Because there was nothing more important to me than that lifestyle that we chase. Thought that marriage and stuff would slow it down. It did, but not for long. See, because I'm alcoholic. And if I pick up a drink, I can't stop. And I can't predict what my behavior is going to be. You know, so I would go through this whole thing, you know, after my brother's death, and not drinking, the whole promotion, stuff like that, and we went through that. You know, so as I'm moving along, here we are in the 80s, and one of my friends comes to me, and he says to me, there's an opportunity for a job. He said, but man, you can't drink. And I heard he had stopped drinking. You know, so I went to him, and I started working this show with him, and things were going good, and I'm doing real well. And again, the alcoholic demons called to me in the night, and walking home one night, I ended up going to this place called the Blarney Rock, which was on 42nd Street and 11th, between 8th and 9th Avenue, right across from the Port Authority. And I'm going to have a couple. Well, that couple turned into about a year's worth of alcoholic drinking in places like that. See, when I look back, I look 5, 6, 7 years ago, I'm in Studio 54 with movie stars doing all these different things. And now I'm holding court in the Blarney Rock at 4 a.m. with all the other sort of characters and miscreants that hang out on 42nd Street at 2, 3 a.m. in the morning. And I have a wife and kids at home. You know, so this friend gives me the job under that condition. And like I said, I tried and I tried and I tried and I couldn't do it. So he calls me up to the office and he says to me, Matty, I know you're drinking. I know you haven't, so don't tell me that you're not. He said, you haven't lost your job yet, but do you want help? Do you want help? His name was Lee C. He was my boss. That we drank together for years. And I said, you know what, Lee? I do. I'm tired of this. So we made a call. The next night, that day, as I was saying that, he says, go home, talk to your wife. I'll call you tonight at 11 o'clock, and we'll make plans to get you some help. So I'm walking down 8th Avenue, headed to the Port Authority, and that's when I said I made the right into the Blarney Rock instead of the left to the Port Authority. So I discussed this with my spiritual advisor, Chris Walsh. He was the bartender at the Blarney Rock. And I said, Chris, you think I have a problem? Matty, no, let me buy you a drink. Later that night when I go home, she's at this point not even looking at me anymore, and I say to her, if Lee happens to call tonight, tell him I'm sleeping. At 11 o'clock, like I knew would, the phone rang and it was him. And she walks in with the phone and hands it to me. And I give her one of those looks that I had given all the people that I love so much, like, when I get off this phone, I'm gonna kill you look. And he said to me, what, were you afraid to call me? And I said, no, I just dozed off and stuff. He said, do you want help? I said, yes. Be ready at 6:30 in the morning. Him and 2 other men who 12-stepped me, 2 Jimmy G's, came to get me that morning. They drove me to Red Bank, New Jersey. I met a doctor called Dr. John Paul Swidrick. And my journey began, ladies and gentlemen, that March 31st of 1989. Dr. Swidrick looked at me, they snuck me in the back room of his practice. He had 40 people in the waiting room. And he had said, he opens the door and says to the 2 Jimmys who were recovering alcoholics that he tended to. And he said, yeah, he's one of you. His liver's out like this. He's gonna be yellow in a week and we're gonna put him up. And that was into detox, into this beautiful Victorian building called Century House, where that fellow talked about that thing there. And my recovery began. You know, it's where it really started for me. I followed the directions because I wanted what you guys had. When I got out of rehab, I went to a meeting in Englewood, New Jersey. It was a men's meeting, about 80 guys, and everybody shared. The meeting lasted 2-3 hours some nights. One of the things when I was leaving rehab that day, and again, another stat, if it's true or not, I don't know. But people told me that if you make a meeting your first night out of rehab, that the chances of you staying sober increase so much higher. And if you find yourself a sponsor in a home group right after that, your chances increase even further. Now, I don't know if it's urban legend or folklore or what, but in my years I've seen those things are certainly true. So Lee picked me up, we went to a meeting, he said, you're on your own, I'll take you there, and off we went. And that was Monday night when I got out of there, and on Tuesday, I went to a place in Union City, New Jersey, and I met my first sponsor, Ronnie S. from Hoboken. I've been blessed, like I said, with 3 sponsors. And tonight I asked Paul to be my 4th. And Ronnie took me in, and he took me to that meeting, and he brought me up, and he picked up this book, and he bought it for me. The 3rd edition came out in 1976. You know, now this is 1989. The price was $3.60. And he said to me, this book is going to save your life. Are you in? I said, yeah, I'm in. He said, we're about to embark on a journey with each other for you to find the God of your understanding. And you will find that God who will introduce him to you, that higher power will introduce himself to you in the 3rd step as God. Are you in? And I said, yeah, I'm in. And we started going to meetings. and I did my 90 and 90, and I got active, and my life was changing. I embraced this program like I embraced that alcoholic rock star lifestyle, right? Well, I don't know who coined the phrase, but back in the 70s, 80s, when they came up with sex, drugs, and rock and roll, well, that's what it was. And a lot of us that lived that style that ended up in alcoholic, that either died or ended up in AA. We were the fortunate ones, as Paul said, we got through that. So I joined this group there. I'm sober now for 18 months. I'm doing my steps, and it's awesome. We decide I'm saving up all my money. I took all the suggestions. When I came in here, I was thousands of dollars in debt. Everything was all like that. And he said, don't worry, we'll get through this. It's a step-by-step program. I called TRW, was the company back then, some of the older guys remember, and you give a long computer sheet of all your debt. And he made me contact each one of those people. And I started making financial amends to them. You know what, guys? If you don't drink, you can work. And if you work, you get a paycheck. And if you get a paycheck, you can pay your bills. It's not going for alcohol and drugs and other lifestyle things. It was like, holy mackerel, this stuff really works. All these things started to happen. We moved into a house, got out of debt, bought a house, and off we were. And we were up and running. Our family was getting bigger and bigger, and life was good. See, but life is life, and we're told, when you make a plan, God laughs, right? In 1997, I came home from work one day, and I saw my wife was crying, and it was, what's up? And she had said to me that my dad had passed September of 97. So I flew down they were living in Florida up in Palm Coast, and I flew down, and I was with my mom, and, we were able to get through things. I reminisced of what the unforgiving son I was to her in 1982 was now a completely different sober man for her in 1997. And we got through. And as we knew we would. See, because I didn't have to drink, and my life still kept getting better, and I'm going through, and we're raising our family and watching everything grow, and I'm watching all my kids. My youngest son, I had 4 children. My youngest son, Mark, who I named after my brother who passed, he was special. He was real special. And I knew he was because he was so much like me. And that scared me. It scared me. I was loved and proud of him in one moment and wanted to choke him the next. Probably exactly like my dad wanted to do to me. And at 17 years old, as a senior or going to be a senior in Middletown High School, like my dad got the knock on the door from the Walton police, I got a knock on the door from the Middletown police and the Elizabeth police to inform me that my 17-year-old son and 3 of his friends had gone into New York that Sunday afternoon. He was supposed to be with me and my other son and friends watching Giants-Cowboys football. And he'd gone in, and as I said, what would haunt me many years later, him and his friends went in to buy fake proof in a place down in Greenwich Village, which they did. Perfect ID of Ohio driver's license, and him and these 3 friends. Ironic, huh? Me and my 3 friends started my alcoholic journey, and him and his 3 friends. That ended his life. See, because they went into these bars and they started drinking, and they took the train home for whatever reason we'll never know, was put off the train, and then walking down the tracks trying to get back home. Him and another young boy were hit by a train and died instantly.
Oh, jeez.
So when I opened that door, my thought wasn't of a drink. When I had to go through the legal stuff with them, and I walked out of my backyard and I called my best friends, and we went over what I was going to do. And everybody came to my house, and we figured out what we were going to do. I didn't want to drink, and I knew deep down inside that I wanted. And we're standing in my kitchen, and my closest friend Billy M and I, and everybody's there, and what can people say? death, as you guys well know, that evil of that kind of thing just hangs in the room. And I said to my friend Billy, I said, hey, Bill, I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do. And one of the young guys that we were sponsoring had a little bit of time. And he walked by and he said, Matty, I know what you're gonna do. And I said, what, Aurelio? He said, you'll do what you told us to do, the next right thing. So the next right thing for me was to get to a meeting. You know, I had been one of my closest friends, a fellow by the name of Ponytail Mike Holland, who's a member of our Monday night group, and his mom died. And that night, Mike was at the 7:30 St. Catherine's Beginners meeting, as I knew he would. And we cried and we hugged and we talked it through, and Mike didn't drink, and I knew he would. A couple of years later, that same night, Monday night, I'm in St. Catherine's Beginners meeting, and Mike hugged me and we cried, and we didn't drink, because we both knew we weren't. See, because we live in the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, you have to be prepared for anything that's going to happen. Just to start to finish all this up, we got by all that. Our family continues to grow. Marriages came, grandkids came. One of my granddaughters is 13 years old today, May 1st, May Day. I have 9 grandkids. California and New Jersey. And we live a life. I try to live a life as a good example and stuff to them. You know, I was blessed with, for a guy that couldn't get a job, I put 42 years into my union. I retired with a nice pension and an annuity and respect of all my coworkers. I couldn't get a job, right, because of my alcoholic lifestyle. And I retired as the vice president of that local for over 17 years. I had the respect of my coworkers and friends and people in my industry because 2 other men reached out to me and 12-stepped me. See, that's what we do here. That's what we do here. You know, we help the other. What's our primary purpose, right, guys? Every one of you guys sitting here tonight knows that. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and to help another alcoholic. That's what keeps us here. I just want to say just these couple things. I'm not going to read it now because it's too long. I'm a big 12 and 12 guy. I love the big book, but I love the 12 and 12. And if someone asks you what the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous is about, well, you go to step 12 and you go to page 107. And it starts with step 1 that shows us an amazing paradox. We found that we were totally unable to rid of our alcoholic exception. And it will give you a diagram, description of the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. They'll save your life like they saved mine. You know, so it's this just to quickly say what you can do and get through anything. And again, how did you guys have seen me in here for many months now? So how did I get from Waldwick to here in Hollywood Beach? After I retired, my retirement and my time home with my wife evidently got to be too much for her. And she did some, let's say, unspeakable things that cost us our marriage. And that's all I'll say about that. And it came time for me to move on. So I packed up my car last year and headed south. And I ended up in Delray Beach. We had friends here down in Hollywood, and I came down here. And alcohol is cunning, baffling, and powerful, right? And you guys in this community know it better than anybody, you know? For some people, their alcoholic demons come for them when they least expect it. And if you're not on the beam and you're not practicing your 12 steps, then you will drink and drunk. And as we all know, if you do that, for us, it's jails, institutions, or death, you know? We pray for those that still struggle. We pray for those in this community that are still here. Together we can get through any of this, you know? I awake every morning, you know, page 86 through 87, I have an audio version of it. And it's called Upon Awakening, and it gives me clear-cut directions on how to stay sober for the day. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful whole verse about how to divorce myself from self-pity. All my defects of character that I ask God in my 7-step prayer every day to help me, give me the strength as I go out here to do your bidding. You know, so it's, this is how I normally end. There's this fella, either 1700s, I forget the actual year. His name is John Newton. Now, John Newton is from England. His dad was a sea captain. He put him to sea at 11, and he ended up on this island where he was a slave to this princess for years. And he finally was able to get away, and he became a sea captain himself, and he was a nasty slave trader. People feared him and hated him. And one day, when he realized the evil that had taken over his heart and soul and what he was doing to his fellow man, he shouted out and prayed out to God to help him. John Newton is the man who penned Amazing Grace, right? Now, I had made a promise to myself, when all my kids started getting tattoos, man, I was pissed. I don't want anybody getting tattoos in my family. I'll never get a tattoo. Well, I have 2 of them. I have a tattoo on my leg of 3 of my closest people that I lost, and it was a direct result of alcoholism, which would be my dad, my son, and my brother. And then on my 25th anniversary, I decided on my shoulder here, in a triangle, like the triangle that we use on the circle, the triangle for AA, I put my sobriety date of 3/31/89. And I put, I am lost, but now I'm found. I was blind, but now I see. I love you guys. Don't drink. Go to meetings. Together we can get through anything.
That was amazing. Can we give him one more hand? Right now, we're gonna open up the group for a couple. Huh? What time? Announcements? What's the announcement?
You got announcements. Miriam has the announcement.
Oh, you got the announcement, Miriam? Stay sober. I would say, what else? I always want to say a couple of things.
Go ahead.
I actually liked the story. I mean, basically it was a testimony because you got a story or a testimony. Story, it has an ending. You know, his testimony is just the beginning. It's because he's actually able to help each and every one of us. Stevie does it also well. Matt does it too. When you're starting off with this journey, you got to be ready to just deal with the things that come within. You know, you can't control everything without. You got to start within. And when I got here, I had to realize that I wasn't God, I wasn't perfect, and it wasn't over for me. It was just the beginning. So, you know, listening to a story that you hear good, you hear bad, you hear that you're gonna have ups and downs. It's how you deal with it. You know, I'm not perfect. I go through things, and you know, but those steps I've walked them. And now that I've been able to walk them in you know, the 12 step in the big book, I'm able to understand when I need to pull back, go forward, make amends, all the things that I was not taught to do, and you know, I thought was wrong. You know, even when I'm wrong and I have, you know, I don't want to say sorry, I have to take the day off to do that. And it's not, you know, for you, it's for me. And I've been able to, you know, this month is actually my anniversary month. By the end of this month, I will have a year. This time last year, I wanted to jump in front of a train. You know, I thought, you know, it was over for me. I didn't understand how I could put myself in that predicament. But, you know, this program had gave me the strength to help me get out of that situation. So, we have anybody that's gonna celebrate this month, let us know, and at the end of the month, you're gonna celebrate with me. You got anything to say, Steve? Come on, do this.
Good job, Anthony.
Thank you.
man. Thank you, Anthony.
Hi, everybody, I'm Stevie B, I'm a recovering alcoholic.
TV.
And welcome to our people that are online. Welcome to David B up in Jacksonville and different people that are watching around the United States. And you got volume on?
Yeah, but it just went blurry. I'm trying to fix it too.
Okay.
Yep. Now we're good.
As long as we got the sound,
We're
nobody
good.
needs to see it.
We have the visual.
Maddie,
too.
great job. You know, it was a great AA talk. You're a great person, great friend. You know, you're just a wonderful person. If your family's watching, even though I've only known you a year, you've come through for me. You've come through for my parents. I love you. Your choice in sponsors, that's questionable. But other than that, you're an incredible testimony to a program of a life when we live in integrity, and you certainly live in integrity. And my heart just goes out every single time I see you. And when I heard that Anthony asked you to speak tonight, it can't be a better representation for us here at the Golden Text, which is my home group. We had another death in the community today. And I've never even met anybody that has COVID. I know one person that has. I don't know one person that's died from it. My hearts go out to the people that have died to it. They really do. But I don't know one of them. 1 in 4 of us die. And we walk around without masks, without being plugged into Alcoholics Anonymous, without having a sponsor, without having a meeting schedule, without having a service commitment. And 1 in 4 die, and we're like, look, a squirrel. It's totally unnecessary. See, I'm not even wearing my mask tonight, because I'm like, you know what? It's like the 400th person that we've said goodbye to in the last 5 years. As I was going through my pictures yesterday with my family, I was like, this person died. My son's 9. When he sees a person that he doesn't see on my photos, he goes, is that person dead, Daddy? So many people die of this. 220,000 since last year. Maddie spoke about belonging to Alcoholics Anonymous. Not as a casual member, but I mean built in. I am built in. This is my home group. I come here when I'm in pain, and I come here when I'm in joy, and I come here no matter what. I'm not saying I don't miss it, but I'm saying 45 weeks a year I'm here in this group. We have a totally treatable disease. And not many people are going to go for the cure. No, not many people are going to go for it. They're going to want the easier, soft way. I'm surrounded by an entire property of people that are on their way to die. 150 people here just on this property. 25 will make it. It's heartbreaking. It's unnecessary. We don't have to have another person die every single week. A funeral tomorrow, a funeral on Wednesday, a funeral 2 weeks ago. Well, the funeral tomorrow, that's a blessing. That's Ron Allen. He had cancer. He went home to be with the Lord, and so that's tomorrow here. But I mean, we're 4 funerals a month now. We got a beautiful wedding. Miriam and Noah, that was incredible. We got another one coming up. And in between those beautiful sprinklings of marriages, we'll have another 25, 30 funerals. And then, God forbid, you would mention anything to them, Maddie, like you're not doing it, you don't have a meeting, or you schedule, if you don't have a home group, or if you don't have a sponsor, or you don't understand, I work. You don't think Maddie worked for 40 years? He worked when he was drunk, and he worked when he was sober. And that's why he was able to retire with a pension. My dad's watching online right now. He's got 27 years of sobriety, 27 years of recovery. He's 87. He worked his entire time while he was still in his addiction. Life is going to take a lot of work. I don't know where we're at. We're just thinking it's going to come by osmosis. This is not going to come by osmosis. I'm sick of talking about the COVID, and I want to start talking about the solution. The solution is God, Alcoholics Anonymous, the 12 steps, meeting schedule, service commitment, get involved. I had my two sponsees that are in this meeting tonight, Joe and Anthony, both texted me in the last 2 hours. What are we doing? What's going on with the meeting? Do you need my help? My sponsor that helped save my life, I've had 4 amazing sponsors in my life like you, Joe. I was only joking. You've had the best sponsors. You had an incredible new sponsor, Paul Baker. Incredible man. Love having him in my life. Love having you in my life. My incredible sponsors were Myron Azip, may God rest his soul. Jerry Bear, it's his 30-year anniversary today. Changed my life. Jerry Bear changed my life. I was 24 years old. I heard him share from the podium. I said, I got to get that guy as my sponsor. And Russell Spatz. And then I've had some sprinkling of some guys in between that are just incredible mentors. Today, I got all my sponsees in here. Today, at 9 o'clock in the morning, I contact my sponsees. I said, contact Jerry Bear today so that you can tell him what a great, how he helped change your life. And they did. All 3 of them. If we don't pass this on, we're going to perish. And if you don't have anything to pass on, you don't have a sponsor. Paul, you're new at this. What I want to tell you is the sponsor is the most important thing. It doesn't have to be the best sponsor. You just have to be the best sponsee. You could be following an idiot. As long as you follow the directions, it's going to work. Case in point, Javier. Imagine if you were in 1935 and you had to figure out the 12 steps on your own. That's not now. You know, I went out just now into the property to see who was watching the meeting. You know who was watching the meeting? 0 people. Thank God we have 50, 60, 70, 80 people online. David B. from Jacksonville is watching me. My parents that have combined, my parents have 44, 20. My parents have 55 years, 67 years of sobriety between the 2 of them. They're watching the meeting tonight. They love Maddie. Gonzo, I don't understand. I don't work in a hospital like you. I'm not in the medical field. I can imagine if people were lined up to walk into the hospital and say, hi, I'm here to die. It would be very frustrating. You don't need to die of a totally treatable disease. Get the book. Get a sponsor. Do what Anthony Way is doing. Have God in one hand, your AA in the other, or Narcotics Anonymous, or Celebrate Recovery, whatever. 12 steps in one hand, God in the other hand, and go help someone. And don't be so selfish. If all we needed to do was go work, then everybody could get sober. But that's just work. It's just a little tiny part of life. Service is the main part of life. Today, May 1st, Maddie's granddaughter's what's her name? Layla is her birthday. My sister-in-law in Colombia, it's her birthday. It's my sponsor Jerry Bear's 30th anniversary today, and it's also the day that Andrew F. died. Didn't need to be. Totally, ridiculously unnecessary. Alone in a motel room around the corner instead of being in this meeting tonight. Might as well go play on 95 in traffic and say, I think it's going to work out. It is not going to work out. But I'm preaching to the choir. I'm preaching to people on the meetings online. I'm preaching to David B. that's in Jacksonville, that's got his family back. I'm preaching to you that's in here, the 14 that are in here right now. And the 75 that are out there right there just walking around playing basketball. I don't know what to tell them. But I thank God that men like my sponsor, Jerry Bear, my sponsor, Russell Spatz, and my dear friend, Maddie F., they came before me and they paved the way for me so that when I was on my knees over the last couple weeks doing third steps with my guys, and then my guys were taking other guys, one of my friends were taking other guys through the steps, that this thing is still being carried on. And I'm going to leave you with this. Trust me. COVID has nothing on alcoholism. Our greatest shot of recovery is to actually work the program. No one will be able to get by with this with casual working. We are going to need to put some serious work into this. You know, Maddie, he's an alcoholic who did some other stuff on the side. I'm a drug addict that did some alcohol. So my story is different than Maddie's stories. My stories, have machine guns in it and stuff like that, and people that look like Gonzo screaming at me in Spanish, Policia. Same area though. Manhattan, New York. It doesn't matter how you got here. I know the Blarney, I know the restaurant, I know the bar you told me. I didn't drink there. I go to Broadway shows in that area. It's still there. It's still there on the corner. No, it doesn't matter how you got here or why you got here. Drugs, alcohol, mental illness. You're here, work the program. There's no excuse if you die early. And I told the young man that today. He said, "You have no compassion." I said, "You know what? Not today. I don't have any compassion today." That's what I told him. No steps, no service, no sponsor, no home group, no shop. And that's it. I'm resting on that. But if you do it opposite of everything that I said, and home group, and service, and sponsor, like Maddie's done. Maddie didn't even tell you the half of the hard things he's been through. I mean, of course, the hardest is losing your son. It's the hardest. But can you imagine what he's seen in 30 years? And just in the last 6 months, just more stress. And then divorce proceedings, more stress. But he's here. And I know that when I'm in a jackpot, I can call him. So once again, let's thank Maddie. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. we have a meeting in here called All About God. You may not be able to get in here because that's a maximum 7-person meeting, but it's going to be online. Once again with our dear brother Andrew, who's going to be bringing it on JC's House Sober Soldiers. The man is at 14 meetings a week. He does a meeting every single morning, and he does a meeting every single day, and he does a meeting in the middle of it. I hope his boss is not listening. That's why he has no deals. And that's tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. And then at 2 p.m. tomorrow, Billy, did you know Ron Allen? He passed away while you were gone. And tomorrow at 2 p.m. we'll be here in the chapel having a service for Ron Allen, myself, Andrew, Joe, and Anthony will be here. If anybody, and then Ian will be cooking. Why is Ian cooking for the memorial service? Because he wants to do service. Isn't that amazing? And then tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, we're going to go watch Calvary Chapel online. Okay? Regardless of your faith, you're going to hear a great message. Catholic, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Buddhist, watch the message. You're going to hear a message. Okay? That's 6 p.m. You can't get any more Catholic than Maddie. I mean, the Pope calls Maddie sometimes for information. That's 6 p.m. tomorrow. And then Sunday morning, 10 a.m., Lighthouse Community Church, or any church you want to get to online on Sunday. And then in this meeting on Sunday night, 8 o'clock, is the Stepping Out group. and we have a wonderful speaker.
Karina, step
by the
4.
name of Karina, and she's on step 4, and you guys are gonna be blessed. And you know what? You won't have to drink or die this weekend. You have a meeting schedule. And in between, we'll do what we always do, we eat. Right? Hence, the COVID, now 14. And while you were in the meeting, people dropped off pizzas while you were in the meeting. That's how good God is. Okay? So great job, Anthony. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning, and we'll do this thing again. May 2nd, we'll do it again. And I love you, Manny.
It was a that was my friend that hurt real bad to find out. Only thing I fear in this program before we do the virtual chips is losing that connection with God. I hope that each and every one of y'all find it. And know this, when I walked in this place, I did not look like this. But as much as everything that God can give you, He can take away from you. So don't take this for granted. Don't take granted for the people that's in your life, the people that take the time to talk to you. Don't be afraid to reach out to people. You know, you gotta put that pride and ego aside. This is a truthful program. So if you ask a question, you should be ready for the truth. All right, so let's do virtual chips. Andrew, come and do them for me.
No. You do it. You just
Do? All right.
Yeah, and he tells you if anyone's online.
Anybody that wanna pick up a white tonight and give up the fight?
Give Andrew a second. He's gonna check online.
Anybody on Zoom? All right, anyone wanna pick up a 30-day chip? I know Michael Blackwell got 30 days.
Michael Blackwell.
Really? You got 30 days? Congratulations. 30 days, baby. Come in. Man. Congratulations, man. Who else?
Anybody online, Andrew?
All right, next up is 60 days. Can I get anybody for 60 days? How about 90 days? Anybody got 90?
Hold on, he's checking. No.
How about 6 months? Anybody? Anybody got 9 months? All right, if you're celebrating this month, let me know so we can celebrate. If you're here, you have
Anthony Fasella, Zach 90.
Zach,
Right.
90. Anthony who?
Anthony's got like 9 months.
For some reason, it says Anthony Fasella, Zach 90 on the.
Okay, very good.
Yep.
All right.
And also Billy's
Hey,
gonna be
Dave, Kelly Fox pick up 30 days from Virginia.
Kelly Fox, congratulations.
And also Billy's gonna be picking up with you, since he was out of town getting his.
All right, me and Billy, that's my homie right there. Congratulations, Billy. Thank you.
Anthony Fasella just sent a correction. He does have 9 months.
Right.
All right, congratulations, sir. Congratulations.
And Thomas Ingram, 9 years. Or is saying that Tammy Joe has 9 years.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Timmy Joe, baby. Congratulations. All right,
Thank you.
you are in the right place. Just like they said, get a sponsor, do the steps, and choose to live. Thank you.
Golden text.
Golden text statement. Ian, you want to come read that? Give me where the book at?
Underneath you, right here.
My name is Ian, I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Where to start? Okay, Bill was at my house talking to my wife and me. We were eating lunch and I was listening and trying to find out why they had this release that they seem to have. Bill looked across at my wife and said to her, Henrietta, the Lord has been so wonderful to me curing me of this terrible disease that I just want to keep talking about it and telling people. I think I had the answer. Bill was very, very grateful that he had been released from this terrible thing, and he had given God the credit for having done it. And he's so grateful about it, he wants to tell other people about it. That sentence, the Lord has been so wonderful to me, cure me of this terrible disease, that I just want to keep telling people about it, has been sort of a golden text for the AA program and for me.
Thank you.
I'm not gonna say who the person is, but I'm just gonna say her first name. I'd like you guys to keep a girl named Emily in prayer. Because Emily, 2 years ago, lost her boyfriend to overdose, a member of this community. And now her current boyfriend is the boyfriend that died today. And she's also in the program. So please keep Emily in prayer, that she's able to stay strong and that the Lord cover her in his mercies.
We got a special way of closing. Everybody stand up. Social distance. Kazan started off with a moment of silence for the sick and suffering, the ones that didn't make it today.
Let us remember that we're here by the Lord's grace and we should live for His glory. Who woke us up this morning? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Stay.
Hey,
See
Mom,
you
you
next
wanna tell
time.
Manny what a great job he did?